Well, hello there. It's Melanie. I have put off making a video because I have been gone so long. So I'm just going to get to it. Everybody knows what's going on. And at first, when this whole shutdown thing started, I really lost my mojo. I've kind of gotten it back. But I haven't really wanted to talk to anybody. I don't know. The whole thing's just bizarre. But here's what I've been up to, and I thought I would share with you. When I last talked to you, I was taking Kelli-may some classes from her website. And this is a journal that I made from her stitched layers class. And it's kind of unusual for me in that the color scheme is very different for me because it's browns and naturals and greens. Just so happens at the same, this is some stuff I wanted to add to it. Just so happened at the same time that I was making this, I also went through some old family pictures that I have that I've borrowed from my uncle, actually. And it's pictures of my paternal grandparents' backyard, which I have very fond memories of because they love to garden, and that's where I got my love of gardening. So the theme of this journal, after I started it, because I ended up going with greens and browns and things like that, it ended up as kind of a repository for some old family pictures and their copies of the backyards at my grandparents' house. And my grandparents lived their house here, and then they bought the house, or my great-grandmother lived in the house next door. Anyway, I can do a quick flip through of this. It's basically made with this, the cover is very much made from Kelli-may's class. I did some different stuff on the inside, and my spine is a little bit different, but I'll link to her class so you could see her class. This book is about, I think it's about 4 by 6. But the cover is, this is a piece of old quilt and then some like yard bag craft paper that it's stitched onto. So I can't decide what I want to call this book, but that I might put a title in there somewhere. So in that class, she has you do all kinds of layering and things like that. This is coffee filter, and I think that's grape mascari. I tried eco-dyeing some stuff, and it was a huge fail. Huge fail. But I did flour pounding. So this is a bunch of flour pounding. And I got this from flour pounding. This is an iris, a purple iris. Turned out really cool. So I just have pictures in here. That's me in my Mama's greenhouse. And for the captions, because I was doing so much stitching in here, I decided I would just freehand stitch the captions and then glue them in. So that's just stitching on muslin. Some of these are related to, I think this is one of my favorite pages. I love this page. Some of these are related to my grandparents' backyard. Some of them are just green. And kind of working through some ideas that I got from her class. And that's my mama. Her name was Frances Nell, but everyone called her Nell. So I really enjoyed this. That's viola, I think, or by, I don't know. That's from my pressed flower from my yard, and then I Mod Podged it onto a piece of paper and then painted some burlap and glued it on there for the back. This is a stamp that I carved and used. This is a stamp that I carved and used kind of throughout the book. This is another stamp that I carved to use throughout the book. More of that same stamp. Let's see. That stamp here. This is a fabric that I had that had a ginkgo leaf embroidered on it, so I just cut it out and stitched it into the book. But this book is really, I love the way it feels. It's really floppy, and you can, it's soft, and it's very tactile. The feel of the pages, and you know, the delicacy of the little coffee filter pages and things like that. So anyway, that's more grape mascari, flower pounding, stamps, and then some pages I, you know, just did some stitching and I haven't put anything on this page, but I still have some photos that I can print out and put in here. I don't know where this particular piece of craft paper came from. I'm thinking maybe it was packing paper in something that my husband got, but it's particularly heavy and thick, and I love it. And I only had that one piece of it, and I wish I had more of it. I really like it. Here's another. I just did some embroidery on a scrap of paper and then stitched it together. And I stitched right through the page. So this, you can see the stitching on this side of where I stitched this onto the page. Just scraps and layers. There's me. That's me in my great-grandmother's backyard, and a tall sunflower. Just some fabric bits kind of integrated into it. And like I said, I mean, no, the theme was just, I thought, you know, of something to put in it. That's my brother riding on the big wheel back in the 70s in my Mama and Papa's backyard. Some of my Mama's irises. This is another stamp that I carved. Oh, here's this a butterfly that I applique on, but I keep forgetting to do that. I want to embroider just stitch some antenna on there, so it has some antenna. So it's really scrappy and messy, and of all the things I've created, you know, recently, I absolutely adore this. And my favorite thing about it is how it feels, how it's so soft. I mean, the whole thing, it's so soft, it's floppy, it's inviting. I don't know, I really like it. So those are some things I wanted to put in there. So this is, and I think it was called Journaling Layers, or I'll put a link down in the description below to the class that inspired this book. And then I wanted to make one because I had made this one, and it's so, the color scheme is very different for me. I wanted to make one that was really bright. So construction method, I didn't use her same construction method on this one to construct the book. I kind of took what I learned from this and created something on my own. This one turned into, because I wanted to do something specifically, to do something bright. So you can see it's just a patchwork of stuff on the front, and then fabric. This is fabric, this is paper, and it's stitched to some more yard bag, you know, lawn bag, and then I stitched through it. So this one turned into little scrap paper collages. And when I started doing these collages in here, because the way you work through this book in Kelli-May's class, most of these pages, you complete the page before you bind the journal together. You bind the journal together after the pages are already done. And so I started doing that in here, and I was inspired by Roben-Marie Smith to do, because she does these kind of messy collages and then writes on them. And I do, you know, the same sort of thing. But this whole writing and doodling and stuff on top of the collages is a stretch for me. It doesn't feel like, but this book kind of morphed into a little book of scrap paper collage. Then I decided I was going to have a Matisse moment. So I started cutting out some from painted paper and stuff, cutting out some Matisse looking things. This is a piece of mulberry paper. That's in there primarily for the way it sounds. I love the way it sounds. So these collages are scraps of paper. You know, I have that video I did of where I paint paper and then cut stuff out, and I keep. So this journal started with using these, and then I decided I wanted to integrate some pattern paper. So I got some just things like from magazines. This is from the Flow book for paper lovers. So it's really thin, printed, but it's really thin. That's from like a book or a magazine. So I cut out just a bunch of random shapes from printed papers and started using those in these collages. And as I kept going, the ones that I doodled on top of, I don't know, this doesn't feel it's not as easy for me. I really like these. I mean, this is painted on the page, but then there's not really any drawing on top of it. So yeah, here's where I was channeling Matisse for some collage ideas. Anyway, this I cut out of paper based on what's behind here on that. So these are just literally, I don't know how, just scrap paper and trash paper collages. So I did this one. There's the negative. That's what I cut that out of. So I did this journal, and then I had already made from that's a little tree I cut out. From a Ray Missigman class, I had made her tried to make her little pocket journal. I like this page. That's an actual scrap, but it kind of reminds me of like an elephant or something. I'll keep going through here. This one I put together just willy-nilly, and then after I looked back through it, I thought, oh, it kind of looks like a church. Like an old church. And then these are, I think in most cases I put both the negative and the, what I cut out and the paper I cut it out of. There's what I cut that tree out of. I just free-handed some stuff. This is the stamp I carved for that other journal. I like this page for some reason. This is scraps of copies of other artwork, or collage paper, stuff out of books and magazines. I think this isn't deli paper. I'm pretty sure this is tracing paper. But I really like doing the collaging on the tracing paper because then whatever you get something totally different on the back side. And I like that. I like that idea. These pages remind me a lot of other, I mean, it all looks the same to me, you know, like things I've done before. Like this one. You know, I mean, this is the same kind of stuff for me. There's that. That one's not actually full. That one's not finished. But this one, I'm pretty much considering this finished. I think this is finished. So then I was saying, I did the Ray Missigman. I had bought her class for, I think it's pocket journals or something like that, a while back, but I never made one. So I went back to that class because you know what happens? I buy these classes and then I start watching them and it gives me an idea. So I like go off on a totally different tangent and I've only watched sometimes even the introduction, which I think there's a Roben-Marie Smith. I had literally bought the class a long time ago and only watched the introduction and went off on a tangent making, because it gave me ideas to do something else. But this is the little book I made in the Ray Missigman Pocket Journals class, and she puts a stick in the binding, and then I had, well, this is a bad thing going on here. I tried to put some gold paint on it. It looked terrible because I messed it up. Anyway, it was just awful. So I stitched that on top of it, and I'm not sure if I'm, you know, it has a little stick for a closure. But I started doing some little collage, junky collage, scrap paper things in here. But after I made this book, but before I did most of these little collage-y things in here, I made another version of this book, which is this one. So it's the same principle, like same kind of construction. I changed it up. I didn't use a stick for in the binding. So the spine is bound differently than hers is. And when I made this big long strap to close the book. And when I started, this book, like 4 or 5 days ago, this book was only a ½ an inch thick. It was, you know, literally like this thick. And I thought, oh, it would be, and this was huge, big floppy strap, you know. And I was thinking, oh, so what would be so cool is if I could totally fill this book up to where I have to, you know, really stretch to even snap it. So that's what I did with this over the past like 4 days, I guess. I have been doing little collages in this book with the intention of bulking it up and making it chunky. I kind of worked at random, and then I started at the back and worked my way forward. I only have a few pages left in here that are blank, or that don't have anything. I think I have this spread, and then this single page. So I thought I would work on those pages a little bit, see if I can put something on those pages. We can do that together, and then I can flip through the entire book so you can see it. And I mean, these collages, this is trash, people. Oh, that's what I was going to show you. I was going to show you what I've been using. So there's all that scraps of paper from what I've painted. And you've seen this before. This is just painted paper that I use to cut shapes out of, that kind of thing. So there's this, which is my file of painted but uncut kind of things. And then I have that tin of scraps that I was using. And then I cut up some patterned paper and used just, you know, I tend to make the same shapes over and over. Scallops and arches and that kind of thing. Teardrop shapes. And then I have this collection of scraps that I was using in the Busy Hands journals, which that's this scrappy thing. Now the difference, what I've kind of done, what I did in this one, I used a lot of ephemera in this one. You know, actual things. This one I tried not to use any ephemera, but just use torn paper, pages out of books, things like that, but not like a ticket stub or, you know, I wanted it to just be scraps. So, but these this is the Busy Hands, which there's a flip through somewhere on my channel of this one. That's Busy Hands number 1. I'm on number 3 now. So this I have separated into, I've got natural and white, and then I've got, this is kind of a combination of, you know, scraps of paper and more like ephemera stuff. So I've used some of that. This is just the same thing that's in here, but tinier pieces. So there's that I was using, kind of pulling from. And then my scrap drawers. These are my Alpha drawers, and this one is scrapbook paper, scraps. So like, if I've cut something from a 12 by 12 sheet, and then this is my scrap bin, scrap paper bin. This is like, there's another part of that mulberry paper. This is origami paper, something that my printer didn't print right. This a bunch of trimmings. This is something my daughter gave me from one of her planners. There's an In-N-Out burger thing. So this is just literally trash, but you know, I don't throw anything away. So that's my scraps bin. So I was taking stuff out of there. And then I used, this is just an assortment of papers that I've made to use for collage. These are things I made in a different Roben-Marie Smith class. What was it called? Booklet Bundles of Joy. Booklet Bundles of Joy. So these are some scraps that from that class. These are just pages that I watercolor and then cut apart. And this is some random jelly plate prints. More jelly plate. That's just a painted paper. This is some index out of an atlas that well, that's jelly print. That's jelly print. And then these are painted. And so I just, you know, there's not really much composition to this, but I just paint the whole thing. And then when I want to use something from it, I can just, you know, tear a piece of it out. So these are just sort of collage papers. And I have used this atlas for so long that I am really kind of getting tired of that paper. This is from that Booklet Bundles of Joy class by Roben-Marie. She gave you the idea to paint on deli paper and then use it in your collages. So that's what this is, just a bunch of designs that I painted onto deli paper. So I've been using some of that. And then this is just random under paper. That's some paper that I painted with Kool-Aid, I think. Sprayed it. Just some under paper. So this kind of thing is the sort of stuff I've been using. That. And then I have things left over from this Kelli-May Slow Stitched Journals class. So this is little bits and pieces. This is all the pieces I had left over, page I tore out. This is stuff I had left over from going through that class. So I pulled some scraps and stuff from that. Let's see what else I have here. This one is from the that other class, the layers, journaling layers class, I think is what it's called. So there's more of my coffee filters that I stained and painted, and stamps I carved, and there's a Rorschach, looks like a Rorschach test. Flour pounding, very unsuccessful. It looks really nasty, but some of the less successful. But anyway, this is scraps from making that journal. This is all craft paper, painted or wrapping paper, painted, scraps, yard bags, grocery bags, things like that. I pulled from, I didn't use very much of this, but I did use a little bit. This is copies of other collage-y kind of pages I've made. I've used these in other things, but I didn't use a lot of it in here. And then I used some of, this is jelly prints that I did a long time ago. And some of them are cool, some of them are absolutely terrible. Anyway, I pulled some from the back because I've got some epic fails back here that I could just terrible scraps from. This is original pieces. This is from that booklet bundles class. This is some stuff I painted and then just cut it up. Same as this, that's what this is in here for, is just once I scan it so I could use it again if I wanted to, then I can just tear and cut this up and use it in other art, other pieces. So that's where I've been pulling stuff from. That's a bevy of stuff. One thing that's been interesting to me about this whole quarantine thing is how much I can do, and I never buy any. I hadn't bought anything, you know, because I have so much junk. Let's see. So I've got this spread. It's very white, so I might paint it. And some of these I have been painting the page, like here you can see I got, that's neon red, but I have been painting. Let me zoom you in a little bit. Here's some more scraps, just that don't fit in any other category. So I kind of need something that I want to use as an, you know, a starting point for this. And I thought I had an idea, but now that I'm doing this video, I can't think of it. So I don't know. Usually I just find something that I want to use. Maybe this. I like that. Or do I want to do that? I'm really getting tired of this index paper. And I kind of like the way these colors work with what's behind here. So I think I'm going to do that one. Because I'm really sick of this index paper. So I've tried not to put too much thought into these. So if I use that there, then I probably want to use some piece of this on the other page. There's a little piece. We'll do that. I've been sewing some of these. I sewed some of them I sewed before I put into the book, and some of them I've sewn directly into the book. So I sewed, you know, all the way through the page onto the next page. I can show you that when I flip through it. But I want to put something down here. And you know, as I've kind of pulled from so many sources of scraps, it does kind of get overwhelming that there's so many options. So kind of have to rein it back in. Kind of liking that. So I've been using that art glitter glue to sort of hold things in place until I stitch them, if I stitch them. I kind of like that there. And there's all that black. I like that. But do I want to paint the background of this or just leave it? Ooh, I kind of like that. I'm just gonna put it on. And then I'll stitch a little piece of that other thing before. So I hope everyone is well. I know that carries a totally different connotation now. Strange times we live in, huh? I'm going to stitch right down the middle of that. Oops. Stitch or glue this on. Right there. I like that. And then I'm going to put our little black and white archway down here. Yeah, I find that these come together much better when I try not to think so much. And like literally, I mean, they're trash. They're literally made out of trash. Kind of like that on there. So I could stitch that down the side. I've got yellow in the bobbin, which means that's fine. So I'm just going to fold this back. And I'm just going to stitch it down on the edge of this page. I like that. I could use something up here maybe. And I have been trying in this one, you know, I'll sit here and cut out a bunch of shapes or whatever and then use them and not cut shapes to fit the page. Does that make sense? Like I'm just using these shapes I've already cut, and instead of cutting things to fit. I want to put some more of this. I think I have another piece of that. It's bigger. Let's see. I just want some of this maybe under here. So then once I tear these off, I put that in the basket, and that page will go back into the... Do I like it like that, or do I like it like that? I think I like it like that. And I'm going to put just a teeny bit of glue on there to hold it, and then I'll stitch that on. So I'll stitch that in place, and then I kind of like that on there. But it needs something. Ooh, what about this? Because I've got this green going here. Do we like that there? Or, ooh, it's pink on that side. Ooh, I like it there. Oh, green or pink? I hate to waste this iridescent pink, but I kind of like the green better, so I'm going to go with the green side. So when I started trying to, fill this book and make it thick and chunky, I was even doing things like wadding up pieces of paper and then gluing them in so that they'd be thicker, because I thought, oh, I'll never be able to fill this to the point that I can't close it. But once I started doing it, and layering up these papers, it really started to bulk up fast. That's that index paper. I'm really tired. I'm gonna have to take this index paper. I'm gonna have to take that out of rotation because I'm really getting. Oh, I could repeat this black and white. Ooh, there's some. I like that. Well, but do I want to put something underneath it? I did this sitting in front of the TV one night. I just took pieces of a bunch of random papers and took them in there while my husband and I were watching TV, and just cut random shapes. Okay, I like that. I feel like it needs something behind it though. Maybe that green. Something in that green. That's not big enough. Okay, so see, now that I turn I kind of like that. No, don't. Now that I turn the camera on, I think I'm putting way more effort into this than I was when I didn't have the camera on. Do I have another piece of that paper? That will work, even though it's that awful index. I want to tear it. So I think I'm going to put this on the side, and then I'm going to zigzag. I'll stitch it on. So I need to wait for it to dry just a little bit, because that'll stick under the machine foot. Got paint on the top. Paint stuff on the top of it. Still feel like that's getting lost under there. It needs something else. Yes, it's official. I am officially putting way more effort into this with the camera on. What about this? That's truly a scrap. Kind of like it. Oh, the lid's already off. So I'll put this this on here. Just, oh no, sticky, a piece of scrap. That needs to dry a second, but I don't think I want to zigzag through this page, so I'm just going to put a tiny bit on here to hold that. And then I'm going to zigzag right down there. Hopefully this is dry enough. Like that. So there's the whole layout. Yep, I like it. Hey guys, at this point my husband came home from a bike ride and didn't have his keys and rang the doorbell and the dogs went crazy. So I had to take a break here in a second, and then I went ahead and finished the collages, but I just sped it up for you because I was talking and to my husband and stuff like that. So anyway, thanks for sticking with me on this, and I'll give you a full flip through of the journal now that it's kind of finished. I still want to do some things to the cover, but I'll give you another flip through in a different video. So I'm just going to finish out the collages here, and then everyone take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!